As humanity finally reached beyond its cradle world, human colonies began reaching out into the stars. Mars, Venus, Io, and even Pandora were colonized. However, for a few, they were upset as they didn't find any giant Smurfy cats on Pandora. Luna turned into a major military and civilian hub for transporting goods to and from Earth, guarded itself by a fleet of 3 battleships, 11 destroyers, 8 frigates, and dozens of support craft at all times. The defense net around the Earth itself is layers upon layers of defensive structures to include, but not limited to, the multiple fleets, several different rows and wrappings of satellites, vastly upgraded aircraft and aerospace craft, ground-based anti-ship cannons and missiles, and of course, a population that uses exosuits on the regular, not just for military purposes, but they're so used to it that it's common to see them use it as just regular work, just to help them out. Over time, Venus and Mars slowly build up their own defenses, and within simply half a century, they declare their own independence from Earth. One would think that this would be responded to with violence and force the colonies into submission. Instead, this was met with a month-long rager party on every single planet and colony. The celebration had fireworks in the skies constantly wherever the dark side of the planet was, and of course, enough fireworks elsewhere that another baby boom came to pass. However, this was not as crazy as you would think, as the inclusion of AI androids, crewmates that need actual medical intervention in order to conceive, and of course, in some cases being far too drunk to barely get it up, let alone finish before vomiting on each other, did limit the amount of children actually conceived, at least on paper, in comparison to the so-called boomer generation. At this point, Bill and his family would actually welcome a few new faces as well, but it will be a few decades before they're even thinking that they're ready to command their own ships. But not only will the family, but the AI and the crewmates will make sure they're ready when the time comes. However, time is something, thanks to technology, they have in abundance, but it is known that time is always running against them. With each new dump towards the Earth, humanity does grow stronger. New tech arrives. New ships, well, at least to humanity. New AI with new information. New crew, and even more expertise along with them. Bill and his family were getting to the point where they were catching more ships than they had family to command them, so they had to improvise. If a larger and better ship arrived without its AI, the command and AI and crew would be transferred over and the old ship would simply be sold. If a new ship is caught with all 3 intact, but no family to command them, the ship would be sold, minus the AI and any crew on board, of course. Obviously, if there was no AI or crew, then this was an easy decision. They just had to look to see if the ship was better. If not, well, cha-ching, cha-ching. In some cases, the recovered ship is actually attached to a current command ship used to expand, merge, or redesign it so it's ready for the young as they get ready for their first command in however many years it takes before they're ready. There is also someone asking to purchase a ship, satellite, or AI from Bill's family every single time they catch something. It's not like they can hide it. It's way out in the open where everybody can see. However, Bill will always respond with, "If it ain't posted, it's not for sale. Also, the AI is never for sale. If you want any of our AI or crew, you will find them out back with a whole bunch of offs you can go fuck." The requests almost turn into demand as Bill's family catches a second one of those big-ass ships. Though this is the second of these extremely large ships that Bill's family's been able to catch, this is only 2 out of the 7 of the big-ass ships tossed towards Earth, all of which that have been recovered before crashing into the planet. The governments, and of course those that pull their strings, desire to have such a valuable asset, and they want it bad. However, after full salvage, it gets a new commander. That would be Bill's great-nephew, Evan. And Evan decided to send out a message. He said, "Barda is all mine. I will never give her up. I'm never going to send her down to you. She is going to run around with me and make everyone even more wealthy than they already are." The Barda and the Haiti ended up working very well together in tandem. Working primarily with Venus and Io, they sped up colonization efforts by decades, being that they could both carry so much gear and their drones helped out fantastically. A few of the ships that neither Bill nor his family salvaged turned out to be terraforming ships. Though they had to be extremely modified, they proved to be beyond valuable. In fact, if one was passing through Bill's small piece of space, they cut them a wide berth as they realized how important these ships truly are. Thanks to these ships, Mars is almost completely green. From outside the atmosphere, you couldn't see any oceans, but there are plenty of rivers and small lakes all across the planet if you look close. Venus has cleaned up its atmosphere so much that, even though still not green, no one is actually required to wear environmental suits. Yet, it is still recommended as it is still a bit acidic outside. Io and Pandora will take more time as there's very few of these ships to go around, and of course the larger populations get first dibs. And even with these restrictions, things are slowly changing. As humanity expands, it's growing stronger. The creation of 100% human-designed and built ships have been rolling off the assembly line for several decades now. Though humans have an issue creating the actual AI soul, as they can't just duplicate it, and the fact that Bill holds on to his, along with all his family, makes it so they can't exactly tear one apart and figure out exactly how it ticks. Because of this, human-based ships use a purely contained AI to aid with these ships. It is not much compared to Aya or Cortana or Ava or Haiti or any of them. As expected, human ships, when you look at them, are much more angular and sleek in comparison to the salvage vessels, but they are a bit more durable. Reason being, they roll off the assembly line with redundancy in mind. This was clear as during refits of the salvaged ships, they could see that redundancy was never something the builders even cared about, even on the battleships. If a part failed, there was nothing to take its place, nothing to stop a leak or a blowout or anything. Something as simple as placing 3 seals instead of the standard 1 greatly increased survivability of the ship and its crew. This was actually work that the crew aboard the salvage ships wanted to do. They wanted to take care of their ship. Though they were surprised at the care that humans put into the safety of a species that can simply be printed out in mass, the care made them want to work faster, made them want to work harder, made them want to do the best job possible, as this ship that they are in is their home. Another few dozen decades after the independence of Mars and Venus, Bill is on the bridge with Aya in her android form as they get ready for the next round of salvage. He slowly reaches around her from behind and holds his hands around her just below the neck. He is thinking about how the technology acquired and developed has allowed him to see and experience such wonderful things, to still be here to see even more. The tech has allowed him to stay physically young as he is fit, and strong arms hold Aya. She sits there thinking as her hands drift up to grab a hold of his forearms, thinking about how nice it is to have a caring human, one that exercises constantly, almost religiously, so that she gets to feel the strong arms that hold her, the strong chest on the top of her shoulders, and yet she can still feel what seems like an 8-pack of muscles against her back. They always stand there, and they always wait to see what goodies may be coming their way this time. They had to be on the bridge to correctly salvage, as they had to figure out the trajectories and stay very, very tight to the laws. It's the only thing keeping humanity from shooting at each other. But it doesn't mean they can't enjoy the moment that they're in. A moment that went from tender to frantic in a single moment. Expecting the automated dumpers to arrive out of the jump, everyone is shocked to see a massive spherical object appear. The front of it looked like something out of a horror movie, as it seemed as though it had teeth around the strange opening, teeth that seemed to suddenly start to open slowly. Bill, without skipping a beat, saw it, took a double take, and said, "You have got to be fucking kidding me." At that moment, alerts ring out across all parts of human space. Aboard every single ship, you simply hear, General quarters, all hands to battle stations." At that moment, every human ship, installation, and personnel is prepped and getting ready to fight. Bill jumped onto his PA system and started screaming, "Everybody at action stations now! This is no drill. This is no shit. We got hostiles incoming." On that point, he immediately switched over to the family frequency. Net call. This is Bravo 1 actual. All ships recall. I say again, recall. Fall in formation. On my ping. With Aya, Cortana, Megan, Elita, and Edie in the center. Do it. This, if you looked at it, put every single battleship that they had captured in the center of the formation with everybody else surrounding. Once they were actually in formation, from outside, it would look as though it's a spindle, a spider's web, as though to say, "Welcome to my home," said the spider to the fly. As this giant ball begins to move under its own power towards Earth, everyone prepares as they know what this is. It's a harvester, used to harvest and recycle the garbage planets. Everyone has seen the recordings of these things consuming entire moons in one go. This ginormous ball with huge mandibles that it used to seem to hold its prey in place was now coming towards Earth. One of the younger family members, who had just got their own AI and ship maybe 3 months prior, was a bit jittery as they called up Bill and they said, "If that thing munches moons, it's going to make short work of us. What are we going to do?" Bill immediately responded, "The only thing we can do. Kill them all." As the family fleet formed up, so did the other fleets. It is less than an hour before every single fleet is assembled and is moving out. All except the family fleet. When asked why they're not moving, Bill simply responded, "We're waiting for the rest of the family. Besides, when you all kill that thing, someone has to keep our home safe." Everybody seemed to think about it for a second, but realized exactly what he meant. The fleets of Mars, Venus, and Io arrived to join in the main body. Pandora has no ships to send, at least no warbirds, so they have to wait until the battle is over and send in their own ships to recover anybody who's injured or any ships that have been taken out. The fleet is an amalgamation of new and old designs. This flying circus isn't out to play, though. It's out for blood, even if that blood is cybernetic. The fleet tries to contact the AI or its crew, but they quickly find out that it's either completely automated or perhaps they just don't care. Either way, they're heading towards Earth with hostile intent. And it's time to show them exactly what hostile intent really fucking means. As everything starts off, through the glass, Bill can actually see the shots and impacts. However, they're barely even noticeable as flashes in the blackness of space due to distance. He almost wishes he was there, but his mission is absolutely clear and he is right where he needs to be. He looks on the sensor data and he can see what's going on. On the front lines, every turret and fixed weapon placement fired, Energy and ballistics streak across space, crashing into the harvester. Much of the front of the giant ball with teeth is perforated and begins spitting out debris and atmosphere wherever it's been punctured. Missiles and torpedoes followed in, missiles detonating on the surface, blowing even more holes in the ship. Torpedoes driving in and burying themselves deep into the ship, and then exploding with yields from 10,000 pounds HE to 5 megaton nukes, each detonation causing the massive ship to buckle and shake. Large sections of the ship are actually torn open or completely off, and this opens even more of the ship to impacts and explosives. The massive ship is not designed to handle any type of resistance, so no defense grid, and it's not firing back. But it is meant to deal with a lot of flying debris, since it's meant to completely eviscerate an entire planet, an entire moon in one gulp. So the outer shell is still quite strong, and many of the superstructure parts are beyond durable. Because of this, the metal ball, twice the size of Luna, looks like it's smiling as it just continues forward. For a moment, it looks like the main battleships have surrendered as they stop firing. Then, they all seem to be adjusting themselves just a few degrees, and then they fire simultaneously. First, it's the slower torpedoes. All of them. Second was the faster missiles. All of them. Finally, after a few moments, the turrets and fixed weapons fire. All of them. Utilizing time on target, they focus fire on the very center of this harvester. Now, since it's exposed by sustained fire, they should have a clear shot to the center. The impact of the ballistic fire, the incision and slicing of the energy cannons, the explosive damage of the nuclear-tipped torpedoes using the HE missiles' explosions themselves as a type of tamping to force the explosion back into the ship itself could actually be seen from Earth, as it seems to vomit up this massive explosion. The resulting explosion was like 3 supervolcanoes erupting at once. The blast actually extended from the mouth of the harvester and stretched all the way across the front of the fleets. Though not enough to destroy the human fleets, it's safe to say that most of the command and crew are going to need to replace a lot of ruined jockey shorts. Due to this, everybody simply has to wait, and as they wait for their ships to actually cool off, they notice that the explosion did 2 things. First, it killed the ship. They can realize that as the power is completely gone and it's now just adrift. Secondly, the explosion itself was so powerful that the ship itself is now drifting away from Earth. Which means if it was moving at about, say, 300 to 400 miles per second, it now is going in reverse at the same speed. Which means if there was anybody inside, they just got about 600 miles an hour to a dead stop at once. Nothing at all survives that. Back down around Earth, Bill and the others do not have time to bask in this victory, as their battle is just beginning. Collecting, stopping, or deflecting any of the parts from the harvester that got blown off to keep them from colliding from Earth. Scattering around, they scramble drones and try to gather what they can. They fire on what is approaching that's too fast, or in some cases too big, like one of those massive mandibles. They're able to actually deflect it away from Earth before it reaches zero barrier, so it simply drifts off into space. Or, if possible, they can tether to save pieces to make sure they don't land and they can be reconstituted. And, well, they'll have to collect them later, as once they actually stop the pieces from moving or fling them the other direction, well, there's always more to do. This is done without any restrictions on territory or salvage rights, as all of that went out the window when this giant bulbous bull, apparently with a fusion torch shoved up its ass, showed up in human space, causing problems. Even though this turned out to be a great victory, it did come at a cost. The debris field from this giant harvester thing hit the moon Luna in waves. Some say 2, others say 3, but the waves of debris just crashed into the surface with absolutely no remorse. So much so that over half of the surface has been sent back to pre-colonization. The only thing remaining of great cities are now holes on the moon's surface. Thankfully, most actually hid inside bunkers buried very deep into the moon, sometimes 1 or 2 kilometers deep. Any ships still docked are either beaten down into the landscape or will take a very, very long time to recover. Once everything was over, the family fleet did actually send a whole bunch of supplies over to Luna to help, any type of medical that they could assist with. However, as they did this, most of the family, at least the younger members of the family, showed how much they care as they voiced how horrible this was. How could this possibly happen? This is beyond reason. Bill would immediately silence them by saying, "It could have been worse. A lot worse." This was enough to get them to think. And remember, they still had a lot of history to learn. And if they learn that history, they'll realize how bad this truly could have gotten. But for now, the cannons are silent. But one thing is perfectly clear, and that is this is not the end. Who or what sent that harvester is going to be interested in knowing what happened. And soon enough, they're going to come looking for it, as they are going to want to know what happened to their investment. When they come, everyone knows they need to be ready. The one question does remain. What do you do with 2/3 of a metal planet anyway? Hello everybody, this is Syntax. Thank you so much for joining me for part 3 of this ongoing series. Now before I go, I need to say that the winner for today's contest is Julius Boone. And I also need to send out some big thank yous to the supporters of this channel, and those will be Prozac and Pancakes, Sir, SS Demon, MTF Guard, Brian Kemp, Guardian Sage, Douglas Scarborough, Erica Gem, and Joseph Blosh. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntax. Ejecting.